Okay, so I am the supervisor lead, which takes place at KCL. I've put down here Isabel's email. She's our administrator, and I'm just putting that there because there might be queries that come up. She's probably the best person to direct any questions to. So do take down her email if you come away from here with things that aren't answered. So we've already talked about the model of the different trainings. So we've spent so far this afternoon talking about the therapist course, which is 120 units. The supervisor's course, and then we're going to talk about the manager's course, is 60 units for PG Cert, and it takes place from November this year to October 2017. So it's got a different time frame. It's very intentional, because the point being that we want to train up supervisors before the therapist course starts. So when we first started 5 years ago, people who were doing the supervisor course were normally always the supervisors of people on the therapist course. Because we're now at this stage, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes we have supervisors coming on the course where you've already got people you're supervising who've maybe previously done the course or other reasons. So sometimes it doesn't totally match up that everybody on the course, supervisor course, is supervising someone on the therapist course, although it's very preferable, because then the courses work really nicely together, and I think it's more helpful for you as supervisors, but it's not an essential part. So all courses follow the DH curriculum. Again, it might be interesting for you to read that if you want to kind of think a bit more about it in advance. So these are our general learning outcomes for the supervisor's course. So just to say how we work is we have, it's different from the therapy course in regard to all the modalities are together. I say all the modalities, but actually not IPT. That's a little bit different, as Roz has already explained in terms of the supervision model. But currently on the supervisor course, it supervises for systemic family practice, for parenting, and for CBT. And that may well increase to other modalities as we carry on, but currently that's where we're at. And we have teaching together, so it's really nice because there is a format to kind of learn from each other, from the different modalities, but then we also separate and have practice tutor groups, similarly to the therapy course, where again, you're bringing your tapes and your tapes of supervision. So for those of you who are thinking about the therapy course here, your supervisors, if they're going on this course, will actually be bringing tapes of your supervision and bringing that to the course again in terms of just trying to skill them up in terms of their supervision and thinking about competencies that they're meeting in terms of their supervision. We see supervisors' role as completely essential in terms of this process of change. Not just in terms of in the room right then, although that obviously has a very positive in terms of you delivering that evidence-based therapy if you have got effective supervision. That's part of it. It's not the only part. The supervisors have also got a part in terms of that overall delivery of helping that transformation within a service. So it's not just contained within an hour. Some supervisors get a bit surprised when they come on the course about that, because it's not just about that hour of supervising one person or more than one person a week. There's a bigger role in terms of you within your organisation that might be helping to create some of that kind of change and development and improvements within your service. So that's how we see your role. We see it as essential. So in terms of the learning outcomes, well, you can read through, I'll just read them out. So understand the aims, objectives and structure of IAPT is obviously part of it. Understand the importance of supervision. Again, this is what I was just talking about, the importance of the supervisor as a change agent, offering leadership and support to colleagues during the service transformation process. So you can see it's beyond just the supervision. Being aware of the models of supervision, the supervision competencies being outlined by Rotherham Pilling, and being able to demonstrate practical understanding in the application of those competencies. So that's the outcomes, the learning outcomes we would expect from the course. In terms of time commitment, it's different from the therapy course. Overall, we have lectures for 43 hours over the year, and tutorials for about 39 hours, seminars, tutorials. So just to let you know how that looks, we have an upfront load of teaching. So the course starts near the end of November, and from the end of November to December we have about 6 teaching days, where it's mainly teaching. There's a little bit of practice tutor group work that goes on, but mainly it's kind of 6 days up front of teaching, which covers things like supervision models, IAPT principles, the SAGE competence measure, which you use in terms of rating your own supervision, and different areas like that. And then when the therapy course starts in January, from then on, you generally come about once a month on a Monday, and largely that is in modality groups. So that's where you will have a day with a supervisor who is a parenting specific supervisor or CBT or systemic family practice, and you will be, like I said, bringing your videos and using that group to kind of support your learning as a supervisor. And sometimes people feel a bit overwhelmed, start thinking, golly, we've got a whole day to do that, but time always goes so quickly, there's always more afterwards. And all our supervisors bring their tapes regularly, so it's a real learning platform that I think, again, you can get a lot out of. So in terms of just the time commitment, like I said, it's not just an hour a week. It does depend somewhat in terms of what your commitment is within your organisation, but generally the backfill is 20k, which Alex mentioned earlier, which kind of it isn't specified clearly by NHS England. Round about equates to about 14 hours a week within a 40 working week, but that is quite a vague calculation because it completely depends on your banding and all sorts of things, but it's 20k backfill. So like I say, that's more than just doing an hour supervision or coming in once a month. There is a role beyond that that you will be having within your service. So in terms of, and we often get asked, how is the supervisor role on site different from the practice tutor role? And of course, on the course. And of course there is a bit of crossover, but again, I just want to, I suppose, stress just how important the supervisor's role is within that whole process of change within your organisation. So yes, you will be supervising a therapist, at least one. That was the minimum, what we expect. And 1.5 might be for 2 supervisees and 2 hours for a group, which shouldn't be more than 4 in a group. So that's obviously going to be a weekly part of what you do as a supervisor. You'll be very much incorporating the outcomes into supervision. So they will become a part of what you might be looking at and thinking about and bringing the young person's view in through outcome measures and looking at change, thinking about discharge. So it'll be a part of your supervision. In addition, you'll absolutely hold the clinical responsibility, which is not what the course will be doing. So we'll be very much developing the therapist's skills in that specific model, but you will be having a broader role than that. Not to say you're not also doing that, you will also be doing that. You've got more of a generic and a specific role, so we would also be expecting you to be skilling people up as well. And that's where there is a kind of overlap, and we find it's really useful for supervisors on site and practice tutors to be linked up. So we're ever thinking as a course kind of how to make that happen better and what meetings to have to include supervisors from site and phone calls to kind of really link up so that we are kind of working together effectively. In addition, if you are a supervisor of someone on the course, you will be having a role in terms of helping therapists with the kind of ebb and flow, making sure they've got enough cases and kind of helping with some of the anxieties that might come from that. So, you would have a role within that as well. As we said, contributing to the implementation of IAPT. So in terms of the content of the teaching, like I say, the teaching is minimal. Overall, all the days for over a year, it comes to about 14 days. So the kind of 6 days up front cover these kind of areas, which we've kind of already talked about briefly. This one, the process of change and developing care pathways, is there are 2 sessions that we do jointly with managers. So there's a managers and supervisors sessions, which we've given a lot of thought to this year, and really, I think these sessions really developed and are actually very helpful in terms of, again, just thinking about that change within your organisation, and also what you might need from managers and what managers might need from supervisors to make that happen. So I think we've already mentioned this really. Within this, like I said, there's a competence tool called the SAGE, which you will rate your own tapes of supervision with, and also as a group you will be using that to be thinking about competency of supervision within that group, and summatively you will also then be handing in a tape of supervision that is the SAGE is used to rate your supervision. So it's something you'll become very familiar with, and again just helps you think, you know, actually what are you already very good at doing in supervision, what maybe do you need to develop a bit more, and that's, I think, again a very useful part of this course. And in fact, just to say as well, what we found is that when the course finishes, supervisors rarely want the group to end, so they've often then created a peer group kind of email resource that they continue with, and in fact quite a lot of supervisors the last year they've requested multiple more sessions to carry on going as a group, and now they're going to carry on doing that as peers, which is really, I think, a wonderful model because they're from all over London, and actually they're wanting to carry on with that kind of learning model because it's been really helpful. It's so rare as supervisors, I think, to be able to have that opportunity to be able to think about how you're doing as a supervisor, what you could be doing differently. We're also kind of got so many time constraints, we're often just running into supervision, delivering it however, and actually it's about stopping and thinking how actually could this be more effective. In terms of assessment, so I've already mentioned the whole tape of supervision that gets submitted with a 1,000-word reflective analysis. We have more of a kind of theoretical essay on, which includes obviously lots of the research around supervision, around CYP IAPT principles as well, which is 4,000 words, and then we have an essay and a log which is a bit more reflective on your experience as a CYP IAPT supervisor, and also a log which includes contracts that you've set up. So we'll talk about all of this at the beginning, where you'll be setting up contracts, you'll be having like a log of supervision, you'll be having your SAGE ratings, there'll be feedback questionnaires of how your supervisee is finding your supervision, and all of these things will get included, as well as an appraisal, which is basically a manager, a peer, and a supervisee just kind of talk qualitatively, and there's some ratings, but they're quite brief in terms of your supervision. And again, it just is a platform to just for you to think about how you're doing as a supervisor. So I suppose I just want to say, really recommend coming on this course, because I think that it doesn't get talked about enough, supervision, and it is so essential to change. So even if you're not interested, maybe go back and talk to other people in your organisation who you would like to be supervised by if you're going to be on the therapy course, because it'd be really great to kind of work together, that they're on the course at the same time as you. And like I said, this will remain a year's course because it's already pretty part-time. Just in terms of qualifications to get on, we would expect people to have at least 2 years supervision experience, and also to be specifically using the modality that they are applying for. I know within parent training that's sometimes a bit of an issue, and I know that there is some training that is provided in terms of IY for supervisors when they start, so they actually get to attend some of the therapist training. And in fact, that is also open to supervisors. We say, you know, actually if there's any training from the therapy courses you really feel like you want to be a bit more skilled up in, come along. You know, as long as we know and we can make sure there's enough spaces in the room, we're really happy to accommodate. So, you know, you've got an opportunity as well for your CPD if there's areas you want to develop in.